Hi guys, welcome back to our authentication series. In this very video, we want to see how we can integrate Github Oauth authentication into our own authentication service. Alright, so without wasting most of our time, let's head over to Github and get our client ID and client secret. And if you've not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. That will help the channel a long way. Thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. Alright, so let's head over to Github and head over to your Github account. Just log into your own Github account. This is my own Github account. So if you don't have an account, just sign up. It's very straightforward. So get to your profile, go to settings. When you get to settings, under settings, you go to developers settings, scroll down and you see developers settings. So come over to this developer settings and here you go to Auth app. All right, so you can see I already have one app for testing, so we need to create a new app for integration this time. So just come over to this place and create a new Auth app. All right, so click on the new Auth app. So here, give your application a name. So I'm going to say Django Rest Auth Service. Then your home URL, which will be the URL for your front end. So let me put our port here, which is 5173. If you want to give a description, you can give. Then the authorized callback URL. This is where it should redirect to after successful login. All right. So after successful login. All right. So we'll go to /dashboard, which is our profile page after successful authentication. So that's all we need to do here. And once we are done with that, just click on register. All right, so this will take you to this very page where you see your client ID and your client secret. So these are the two important credentials that we need. So what we just need is to grab these credentials and bring it over to our settings app, our settings.py file. So you can't use mine, you have to go through your own Github and have your client secret and that. So after this tutorial, I'm going to delete this, obviously. So here I can have this Github and paste that here, and same thing, get our client secret. So client secret, we have to generate a client secret. So it's asking me to log in. All right, so once we successfully log in, the client secret will be generated. So I'm going to just grab a secret. So yeah, also, all right, and now settings.py file, we have to bring them here also. All right, so that's fine, bring that in here. So what we need to do next is just the same way we created a module that handled the logic for Google authentication, which is this UTs. We can add that of Github here if we want to, or we can create a separate module to also handle everything about Github. I think that would be more easier for us to follow, or for you guys to follow. So let me not just jump pack everything into this one file. So let me create a new module. I'm going to call it github.py. All right, so we are going to put everything relating to Github in this very module. So the implementation of Github and that of Google is quite different, because Google gave us an SDK that did a lot of the heavy lifting for us and make our integration very easy. But for Github, we are going to be communicating with their REST endpoints. So we are going to be making requests to some of the endpoints directly for Github. So we need to import request. I guess we've installed that. If we've not installed that, we'll have to. All right, we'll import request, and also I'm going to create a class. I'm going to call it Github, and here we are going to be having some of the static methods to handle some of the requests. So the thing is, our front end is going to be the one to make the first request to the Github authorization endpoint, where users have to confirm if it should be granted or not. So when the user confirm, a code is given to our front end, and that code is what the front end need to send over to the backend. So once the backend receives that code, we exchange that code for an access token. All right. So once we have the access token, with that access token, we can use it to retrieve users' profile information. So the first method we're going to define is going to call it exchange. All right. So you can use a better name if you want to. So we're going to receive the code, which is going to be coming from the front end. All right. So that's the first method. So this is going to be a static method as well. So I'm going to say static method. Then the next one we're going to do is retrieve. We're going to call it retrieve user. So this one, I'm going to call this one retrieve user info with token. This one, you can use a better name of your choice. If you want to use a more shorter name, I think I can say retrieve. Let me see. All right. I think these names are too long. Let me say retrieve GitHub. This is going to take in an access token. All right, so this is going to receive an access token. We can still put pass for now, and this also is going to be a static method. All right, so to implement the exchange code for token, let's head over to their docs and see. So if we come to their docs where we have the web application flow, you can see the steps. So the first step is going to be done by our front end. So our front end will be the one to hit this very endpoint, this authorized endpoint. But after then, the second endpoint is where we are exchanging. All right, so this is the endpoint. So exchange this code for an access token. So this is the endpoint that we want to make post request to. So we're going to grab this endpoint. All right, and let's see what we need to send along with this post request. So this endpoint takes the following input parameters. So all these are going to be coming as parameters, which is the client ID, the client secret, and the very code that we just received. All right, and then redirect underscore URL. So these ones we don't need this one, but the three important ones that we need is these three. So by default, the response is going to come like this. So let's see, we're going to see the response, and we're going to have a key for access underscore token, and the scope and the type, which is bearer. All right. So let's go and implement this now. Back to our code. Yeah, first we will just construct the params that we need to send along. I can say params payload. All right, make it an object, and we need a client ID, and that we can get from our settings. So let's quickly import settings, say from Django.conf import settings. So once we have that, we can say our access and client secret is going to come from settings dot, we call it GitHub client ID. So make sure you check for confirmation. All right, and the next parameters is also the client secret. So make sure the name you're using also match what they are expecting. So don't just use random names. So the spelling should match. So we are expecting client secret, just like this. So grab the name. All right, and this is coming from our settings also. All right, and the code is going to be the code that we are receiving. So once we have those three required parameters in our payload, so the next is to make requests. So here I can come and say respond, whatever is going to be our request dot post. All right, and the URL and post that here. All right, then the params, we are going to be passing that params payload. All right, I think the header also, we need to pass a header JSON. So we're going to set the accept in our header. All right, so for the header, we're going to set it to accept gestion/JSON. That's what we need to do here. So once we have the response, we want to say payload or result payload is equals to res.json. So convert to JSON. We want to get, so this payload, which is the result of what is coming for us. So if we check back, we are going to see an access token, the scope, and a token type. So the key we are looking for is the access token. So we're going to grab this access token key. So in here, what we simply say is we can say token is equal to our payload.get. All right, because this is a Python environment, so it's going to be a dictionary. So we're going to get that key called access token. So once we get that, we simply want to return that token. All right, so return the token. Okay, so so back to this retrieve user information. So for us to do this, we need to set up a couple of things to the header. All right, so once we have the token, we're going to set the header. All right, the key of authorization. All right, and we asked to use bearer, so I'm going to use an f string, and then the key is bearer, and we're going to receive the access token. All right, so we can always check is there. If you go over to the next endpoint, using the access token to access the API. All right, so authorization, bearer, and the token. So this is how they ask us to send it. So authorizations. So once we have that header set, next we still need to make requests. So I can say response is equals to request dot post. I think no, this is get. Sorry. So slash get, the endpoint is this, which is slash user. All right. So and the header is going to be our header object, or header dictionary. All right. So let's put this in a try and catch block in case something happens. So I'm going to put say try. So try to do this, and we have an except. So except there's an exception, so I can just say exception as e. So except there's any kind of exception coming, we can raise let's quickly import say from rest underscore framework dot exception. We want to import authentication fee. All right, so let's import authentication fee. So here we can raise that authentication fee. All right, so here we can provide the detail, and this is just going to be a message says let's say token is invalid or has expired. All right, or if everything is fine, we have our response. That means we have the user data. I can say user data is going to come in from our response.json. All right, so once we have that, we can just simply return the user data. All right, so this is everything we'll be doing here. So we get the token which is being sent to GitHub, and we use it to access the user information through this endpoint, and we return that information. So that's what we'll be doing here. So we'll save this. All right, so with this out of the way, let's go over to our serializer. All right, so here we are going to create the GitHub serializer. So here we're going to create a class. We're going to call this Github Oauth serializer, or any name of your choice, and this is going to take in serializers.serializer class, and we are expecting just a code which we're going to make serializer.charFeed. All right, so I can just put a main line, say there's no way the code can be less than 5. All right, or let me say less than 2 to be safe. So with that out of the way, here we can define the validate code, which taking self and the code. So we are going to import say from .github. We're going to import the GitHub class. All right, so once we import that, so here we're going to use this code to get our access token. So I'm going to create a variable called access token, which we are going to get using our GitHub class.exchange code for token, and here we are going to pass in the code to this function. So this will return the token for us. So we're going to say if we have a token, all right, we want to use this token to get the user data. So I'm going to say user is equals to GitHub.retrieve GitHub user, and here passing the access token. All right, so possibly this can give us a user. So we can say if, for example, maybe something happened, we can also raise a value error or validation error. So let's import that as well. Validation error. So, and here we can give a validation error of something like token is invalid or has expired. All right, or if we have this user data, we can start retrieving the feeds that we want inside. So we have a full name, which is going to come from, and email, which is going to come from user name. Email is going to come from user name. So all these are feeds from GitHub. So but what we want is we want first name and last name. So the trick we are going to do is we're going to say names is equals to full name dot split. All right, so we want to split it where we have space. So once we split it, we'll have a list of names. So we can retrieve the first name, which is going to be names list. Then we want to retrieve the second item from the list, then the last name, which is going to be names, and we're going to retrieve the first item from the list, because once we split these names, we'll have a list of name which contains the first name and the last name. So we are retrieving them one after the other. Then we can have our provider, this case, which is equal to a string of GitHub. So once we've done this, we have our names, we have the image, and we have the provider. So what we need to do is to call our register social user. All right, since you've already imported it already, so we are going to use it also. So I think I already have something like that. So let me just grab this, because we are still going to return that. All right, so return register social user, passing the provider, the email, and this time first name and last name as well. All right. Okay, so that's all we need to do in this case. So once we are done with our serializer, we need to go over to our view and implement the GitHub view. So over to our view. All right, so we are going to create the endpoints for GitHub. Here I'm going to create another view which we're going to call GitHub sign-in view. It's also going to be a generic API view. So here we're going to specify a serializer class as well. I think I can just grab everything here. It's similar, so let's just copy it and paste here. Then we can make amends. So the serializer is going to change. So let's quickly import our new GitHub serializer that we just created. So I think I call it Github Oauth serializer. So take out the serializer, bring in that Github Oauth serializer. So it's going to be a post request. We are still going to check if serializer is valid. Then we don't need this print statement anymore. So take this print statement out. This was for debugging purpose. So let me remove them. So if it's valid, we want to get the data. Set can make say if serializer dot is valid. If it is valid, we get the data. All right, but this time is not for the feed of token but code. Remember, that's the single validated feed that we have, which is this validated code. So the result of that is what we are retrieving here, because the result of that validated code, if everything goes well, is to give us a register the user for us. So once we have whatever register show user have, so we can return a response. I think we also have response. So where data is our data and status, it is status 200, so we can put status 200. All right, so that means everything is okay. Or if for some reason we have issues, we can return the data equals to serializer dot error, and the status this time we can change it to be something else. So we change it to be 400. All right, so that's all we need to do here. So once we are done with this, let's quickly set up the URL. One URL, which is Google. So let's quickly import the view, and I can just duplicate this and change this to GitHub as well. So save this. So I think that's all we need to do for the backend. So what will up next is us implementing the front end to integrate this GitHub sign up. All right, so on our front end part, where we have our logic for signing up, is where we are going to create the sign up with GitHub. So we already have the button here already. So what we're simply going to do is when the user clicks on that button, we want to forward the user to their GitHub account. All right, so when they get to their GitHub account, they will have to log into their own account and then authorize us to use their data. So when they do that, GitHub will redirect the user back to us. That's how we provide that authorized redirect URL. I think we did that when we were setting up our Auth app. GitHub, the user is redirected back to us. The code will be part of the query parameters of the URL. So it's going to come back like this: localhost 5137 which is our own domain, our own front-end URL. Then the code will be part of the query parameter. All right, so what we'll do is that we'll grab the code from the query parameter and send it to our backend. And one thing is that this code can only be used once. So after we use it once, if we try to resend request again with this same code, we have an error. So what we simply do here is simple. We are going to create a simple function called handle signing with GitHub to make this an arrow function. And here what we're going to simply do is we're going to say call windows.location.assign, and here we are going to provide the URL that we want to forward the user to. So that is the authorized URL. So if we come back to their docs, which is this very URL here, and this URL, we are expected to provide the client ID as part of the parameters of this URL. So that is how GitHub will know where this request is actually coming from. All right, so we need to provide our client ID also. So let's grab this URL here, and in here we're going to use backticks. So first we pass in this URL, and the parameter, which is the client ID, we also need to provide as well. So we need to bring in our GitHub client ID to our frontend.env file. So that I just did, so I'm going to save it. So in here, we are going to do / then question mark, then client underscore ID. We are going to set it equals to the value of our client ID. So remember, we are using vit. So for us to use vit for environment variable, we have to use the word import.meta.env, then the name of our env this time, which we called vit Github ID. So grab this name. All right. So that is all we need to do here. So what happened is that this button is going to be called by our button. I think we have the button. All right. So this very button that we have, which we called sign up with Google. So we are going to put an on click event handler. All right. And here is what we're going to call the handle sign in with Github. All right. So we'll save this. So once the user is redirected back to us with the code, is where we want to send the code to our backend once the page loads. All right, so since the code is going to be coming back to us as a query parameter, so we are going to be using the search query parameter hook coming from React Router DOM. Use search params. All right, then here we can just create a simple, say, cons. We want the search params, which is going to be coming from use search params. All right. So we are going to be using this to grab the code from the parameters, from the query parameters. So once we have that, yeah, we can just under where we have right in here, we can just create a simple sync function, which we can call send code to backend, or any other preferred name of your choice, and we'll make this an async arrow function. All right, so this will be the one that is going to send our code back to our backend. So here we can simply get the code. I can say cons code is going to be from search params.get. I want to get the query parameter that has the name code. All right, because in here, so the name is going to come as code, so we're going to grab that from the search parameter. Before we initiate this very function, we are going to say if we have a search parameter, so if there's any kind of query parameter we want to do something, so we're going to say try and catch, and we want to try to make requests to our backend. All right, so here I'm going to say okay, first let's grab this when we have a query search parameter. So if we have a search parameter, we grab the code. All right, once we grab the code, we want to make requests, so we can say cons, and I can say respond equals await. Then we need to use our Axios. We can use our Axios instance, or we can use the global Axios. So let me see which one is imported. I need to import. Let's just import our global Axios instance. So once we import our global Axios instance, yeah, I can use it by saying Axios instance dot post, and we want to post to auth, think /auth/auth/github. All right, and where code is equivalent to the code that we just extracted, all right, which is this very code. So we can use maybe better names. I can say Q code, which signifies for query code. So yeah, it can be Q code as well. So once we have that, we want to check if our response status is equal to 200. That means everything is fine. So what we want to do is get the data and set our record. So here I can say cons result is equals to our response dot data. All right, so if the request is successful, we want to do the same thing that we did with our sign up with Google. Remember, when we sign up with Google, when everything was successful, we set our tokens on local storage and also redirected back to. So I'm going to just grab that. All right, so which is this very part. So we're going to construct this user and set them in local storage, redirect to dashboard and all that. So this is what we are going to be doing here. So in here, I will just construct the user, which is going to come from our result.email, result.fullname. All right, then we'll set our local storage for our token and our refresh token and all that. So once we do that, we want to navigate. So I'm going to say call our navigate, and we want to navigate to our dashboard. So we're going to go to /dashboard. Yeah, we want to give a toast message as well, which is login successful. I guess that's all this function need to do. So check if there's any search parameter. If there's a search parameter, we get that of code. Once we get it, we send the code to our backend. Our backend does its thing and return for us a response containing our new user access token and refresh token with the user data. So we also confirm if our request was successful. Then we set our record on local storage as we normally do. Then we redirect to the dashboard and we give a toast message. Alright, so if there's an error, we just want to, if there's an kind of error, we can just console.log the error. Alright, I save this. And secondly, if we have the result, let's also see what the result is. So I can simply say console.log our result as well. Alright, so console log the result as well, so that we can see what we have as our result. So once we have this simple function that does this task for us, we want to call this function when our page loads. All right, when our page remounts or re-render. But there's a little problem, because this particular code we are going to be using it once. If we go over to our main.js, all right, because of this React strict mode, it causes our component or our React component to re-render twice. All right, so because of that, we always have error, because once the page renders the first time, it's going to send our code to our backend to do its thing. So the re-render again is going to throw an error for us, because I have that issue during testing. So what we can do is, to simplify things, we can just remove this React strict mode. Actually, this React strict mode is actually for development, causes your React component to render twice, that is double render. So we can remove that and everything should still work fine. So that will stop that re-rendering of our components to avoid that error. All right, so if I guess there are other ways around it actually, but I was having that bug when I was testing out. So that's that. So once that is out, we can call that function in our use effect. So we are going to use effect. So I'm going to say use effect. All right, so once we have use effect, we are going to let's get our code. So let's say let is equals to code, which is going to be coming from our search parents dot get code. All right, so we're going to say if there's a code if a code exists. All right, so once our use effect to depend on that. So if code exists, we want to call that send code to backend. All right, by passing the code. No, we don't need to pass the code, sorry. So we just call in this function that we created, this send code to backend. So our use effect is going to depend on if we have code. So yeah, I'm going to pass in the code to it as a dependency. All right, then another thing is back in GitHub, I just realized that our authorization callback URL should be our sign up page, which is that same page that we're working on. Right, so once the user, the thing is, after the user has successfully granted us permission to use their data, this is the page that GitHub is going to redirect to. So it should be our home page, which is our sign up page as well. So if you are doing this, it's on like a login page or a separate sign up page, so you have to go to maybe /login or /sign up. All right, so GitHub, we have to redirect the user back to this address so we can update this information. All right, I guess that is done. All right, so with that done, and we have called our use effect to do this, I think we are ready to test out our sign up with GitHub. All right, let's quickly test it out. My front end server is running. I think also my backend server is also running. So if yours is not running, just quickly run your server. And let's head over to our browser. All right, just refresh our page. We see have a normal email sign up. We have our Google sign up. So let's try out this sign up with GitHub. All right, so if I hit sign up with GitHub, you see it takes me to my GitHub page. It authorize Django Rest Auth service, which is actually the app that we set up in GitHub. So this is my account. So if I say authorize James. So you are being redirected. So I was redirected here. You can see the code also was part of this URL. But let's see what happened if a request was made to the backend. Okay, I think we are having some Axios issues. So Axios error, 500 internal server error. So let's check our backend. All right, our backend is saying runtime error. You call this URL via post, but the URL does not end in a slash. Okay, I think we are missing just a slash in our URL, which is this URL. Sorry, so I missed slash. That's just the issue. So once we save that, we can retry it again. All right. So back to our home page, refresh to make sure we're having a fresh page, and we can retry to sign up again with Github. So once we hit sign up with Github, oh, something is wrong. Okay, everything works fine. You can see login successful. All right. So it actually works, but I guess because the first time we have already confirmed so that our credentials should work, that's why it didn't prompt us to confirm. So everything works fine. If we check our local storage, so let me see what's happening. If we come to local storage, all right, we can see our credentials is here, my email is here, and my names are here. Let's also go to the Django admin panel. So this is the Django admin panel. So let's refresh and see if my email will be here. So currently we have 9 users. So if we refresh, we can see we have 1 new user. So if we come over to this user, all right, and if we check the provider of this user, we can see that the auth provider is GitHub. All right, so that's fine. Okay, everything is working fine, but there's one bug of which I caused actually. So if you come here, you see we are getting 401 unauthorized, and if you refresh, it seems our Axios interceptor is not working and something is broken. And I know why. If you come over back to where we set local storage, I'm actually setting it with the wrong key. So that's why I'm having that error. So the key actually that we've been using since for access token, if you check that of the Google, is up to be access and refresh. So make sure that the key is consistent. So let me go and change that to avoid those errors that we are getting from our local storage. So for the access, it should be access, and refresh should be refresh because that's the key we are using. All right, so once you do that, you save it, and let's go back and clear. Let me go to my local storage and clear up this data. All right, so we clear it up, and if we refresh now, it should redirect us back to the logout page. Okay, let's go to my GitHub, and let me see if I log out. I want to trigger that. Let me log out of my GitHub account, sign out from all accounts. So let me just do that, sign out from all accounts. All right, so I guess that also we prompt that authorization again. So because we confirmed it the first time, so the second time actually did not prompt us to reconfirm again. It just automatically logged the user in, but everything's actually working fine. So let's just quickly go back to our sign up page. All right, then let's quickly let's hit sign up with GitHub again. You see this time is asking us to sign up to continue in our service. So sorry, I missed my password. So I log in. All right, it's asking me for 2-factor. Sorry, send it. So I'm going to enter the code that GitHub just sent me. All right, so automatically we are redirected back. Fine, good, everything is working fine. So when we redirected back, the backend is staying, and here we are. So if we go back and check our local storage, if we come to local storage, we should see our data. All right, with the right keys. All right, so if you still refresh, we still have that our page. If we come here, you can see we are getting our message. It works. So that's unauthorized is no longer there. Everything is working fine. We can log out. All right, log out successful. That's great. Okay, that brings us to the end of this very tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. See you guys in the next tutorial.